we definitely come from different cultures, and yet we have connected. So there's sort of an answer inside my heart saying, okay, well, this is doable, people. We're so prone to taking things, anything that comes our way, as personal about us. And if it's anything, it's personal about the person who is sending it our way.
But I have to take on that onus. I have to take on that burden. My goodness, I'm already exhausted.
That would be a very tired friend.
A very tired friend.
Yes. And I'm talking about physically tired. Sometimes people bid in a language, not necessarily a spoken language, but some language that you don't understand because that is not your language.
Beautiful.
And then the other person does not feel seen or heard. What kind of gestures do we want to belong around? And when your true you cannot follow the recipe.
Woo.
I'm Charlotte Wiederkehr. My definition of belonging is when I don't have to behave like something I'm not.
Charlotte, hello. You are in the studio.
I am, Raj. It's so good to see you.
Welcome, welcome. You have written a book. This book is called Building Bridges Across Cultural Differences. Why Don't I Follow Your Norms? Which I think is a fascinating title. You've done a ton of research in this area, and you've written articles. The articles are actually on a website, and the website is usdkexpats.org. So if you're listening to this conversation, one of the ideas that we're going to explore is cultural intelligence. And Charlotte is an absolute expert. I actually talked and worked with her when I was at Facebook about how to acculturate different folks in engineering, actually, when we were bringing in folks into Facebook. And I think Charlotte shed some incredible insight that helped me kind of navigate that particular field. So I'm really, really excited to share all of the insights that you have for our audience. Before we go there, all of this culminates in how to connect. All of this culminates into you don't come from the same culture as I do. How do I make that connection? How do I start to understand who you are so that I can work with you, so that I can collaborate with you, so that I can communicate with you when you are showing up in ways that I don't understand? What comes up for you when I even begin there?
The first that comes up is a smile because you're talking in the plural you to the person who may be listening, and I'm sitting hearing you and me, and we definitely come from different cultures, and yet we have connected. So there's sort of an answer inside my heart saying, okay, well, this is doable, people. You can just look at us.
That's adorable, actually.
So that's a personal answer. I think you asked me sort of a little more helicopter view question. And my number one tool and number one recommendation to everybody is be curious.
Yeah.
Always be curious.
Yeah. ABC. Always be curious.
Actually, I hadn't even thought about that, but the ABC rule sounds like a good rule.
Yeah.
Albert Einstein famously said that the more I know that I don't know.
Right.
And if Albert Einstein could be humble like that, then so can the rest of us.
Yeah. How do I start to invite self-awareness under pressure or at all? What naturally flowed for you and I in order to connect? And let's be clear, when I met you, it was almost 14 years ago. So that's insane just to think about that. I was not the person I am today. I was rather, shall we say, rambunctious and a little spiky. You're nodding, so we have confirmation on this. And you still kept in touch with me. You still connected with me. You still came closer. How is that possible?
I think you have read my notes because twice in my notes, I have written consequence this is not personal.
Oh, wow.
We are so prone to taking anything that comes our way as personal about us. And if it's anything, it's personal about the person who is sending it our way. And if we can cross that, and I know it's a big chasm to get to the other side of that in a lot of situations, then that fosters the curiosity. I wonder why Rajkumari is so upset right now.
Right.
Well, right now you're not upset.
At
that would have been that time, right?
Yeah.
And well, you can say that there's the honest curiosity which is here, and then there's the curiosity which is in your heart. That it must be painful, and I wish I could do something to help that. And then suddenly you're sitting side by side instead of confrontational.
But you're talking about empathy now.
Yes.
This is getting very complicated very quickly. I have to have self-reflection. I have to have empathy. And I have to have curiosity. That's a lot. When that almost feels like that's an emotional burden on me that I have to do. And when I'm talking about me, I'm talking about the collective me.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
We're getting very confused with all these versions of all of ourselves here in this conversation. But I have to take on that onus. I have to take on that burden. I have to take on that responsibility to have curiosity, to create the movement towards you, to be curious and have inquiry. And then from that inquiry, whatever you say, not take personally. So then I have to have empathy. And my goodness, I'm already exhausted.
I can see that's, when I'm putting it into the work context that you started setting the scene for, I can absolutely understand why you would feel exhausted. I would say we are geographically in a very special place, you and I, because we're sitting in the greater San Francisco Bay Area, where the influx of people from somewhere else is everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, it's less than 30% in the San Francisco Bay Area who actually grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area. And while many of them then grew up somewhere else, a little further east, and still within the 50 states, a lot of people, a critical mass, has come from somewhere else. And that means that there is a basic level of that curiosity and taking nothing for granted. And there's a basic level of accepting that English is spoken in many ways with different accents. And a lot of that is really hard brain work when it happens the first time. Your natural English-speaking brain is not used to listening to English spoken the way I speak it.
Right. It's true.
And it's tiresome. It creates building new synapses and expanding your brain in that direction where it can understand all the different accents. And once you have been living here for a handful of years, that's your brain on steroids. So a lot of the things that are uncomfortable in the beginning stop being uncomfortable once you've been here for a while.
Wow. It reminds me of when I had traveled to India with a friend. And I remember at one point, we had been in India now for about a week at that time that she said this. And she turned to me and she goes, "How are you understanding these people speak English? I cannot understand anything that these people are saying." And, I grew up in an Indian family with apparently accents. I didn't think that they had accents, but they did. And my acclimation to that type of speaking created a superpower or a skill set in me that helped me navigate a country that used their languaging in that particular way. But what if I don't have that experience? What if my friend who has to navigate this country without me is now needing to communicate? What happens then?
That would be a very tired friend.
A very tired friend.
Yes. And I'm talking about physically tired If you go to UC Berkeley's page for their visiting students, there is a list as long as my arm for symptoms what might happen when you are an exchange student.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Wow, what is that list?
Well, there's a list of all these horrible things that are going to happen to you. So that it's not because, things are bad. Bad things are bad enough in themselves, but bad things that you don't expect are worse. So if you look and say, oh, I feel more depressed, or I am more tired, or I am so missing, my homeland's kitchen, or God, I hated my parents, but now I wish they were here. Or, a lot of things that these young people go through. And then you look at the list and you're like, oh, and all the rest of the people on my floor feel the same way because they're all exchange students too. Or I could just find another exchange student and we could commiserate. Mm-hmm. And then suddenly you're not alone.
Right. This reminds me of the quote, until you've walked in my shoes, you don't know what I've experienced.
Yes.
There was a book that was published back in 1890 that had a huge impact on American society. It's called How the Other Half Lives. It's one of the very first publications known today in photojournalism. And this book is something of meaning for you. Talk about this book.
The book was written by a Dane who came to the United States, New York in particular, in the, I think, late 1870s. Mm. His name was Jacob Riis. Mm-hmm. He lived for a time in the slums of New York, the tenements.
Oh, wow.
He became acutely aware of how easy it is to slide back, and the whole, how difficult it is to get out of the poverty if that's the way you arrive, and how easy it is to come back into poverty because you're only one mistake away from it. Mm. And because he was working as a criminal journalist, he was often walking the beat with the police in the tenements.
Oh, wow.
And he found that as he got curious about photography when it first came out, and then he saw, perhaps if this was documented, because people don't know about this. Mm-hmm. People go where they feel comfortable, and why would they go somewhere where they didn't feel comfortable? And somehow by documenting this and making people aware that these were their neighbors and they lived 5 streets down from where other people who were ignorant of this lived. Mm-hmm. He helped, I would say, it was not just him, of course, but it helped create the movement towards building some of these lodges and organizations that America is famous for doing good work. Mm. One of his first, and I thought very astute, civil disobedience. He said to the people who lived outside of New York or outside of Manhattan that at this day they should bring flowers from their gardens. So all they had to do was to bring some flowers from their gardens. And then these little children who lived in the tenements could see flowers because they never saw flowers. Wow. And I mean, flowers came floating in. People had them on the train. People, he had people who picked them up at the train stations. And this very simple gesture was sort of a start on a buy-in. Not, everybody can pick a flower and bringing it in.
You have a lot of understanding, experience, and know-how in working with organizations. Talk a little bit about how this example with Jacob Riis ports over to organizations. How can we start to create an understanding for other people in different capacities so that we can build that bridge, that connection, that understanding?
It's kind of a little bit apples and oranges here, because we're talking, on one hand, how do people in organizations receive new colleagues that are outside of their comfort zone? And the other question is huge societal problems, addressing huge societal problems. And while some of the tools may be the same, I'm not suggesting that organizations go out and give flowers to people who don't see flowers normally.
But what you're talking about with the flowers is an opportunity for diversity in order to create an awareness, for example, that allows people's mindsets to shift. So by bringing in the flowers into these tenements, I'm offering the opportunity to see a different world, a different way of thinking, to create abundant mindset, to think creatively, for example. And in the same way that we work within teams, there's an opportunity for us to bring in resources or ideology or innovation in a way that people can think outside the box. And if I get caught up in focusing on taking things personally, if I get caught up in not having enough curiosity because from 2 meetings ago, there was some disconnect or disrespect that occurred toward me or to a team member, and I'm still holding on to that, I'm not going to show up in a way that's going to allow me to create that bridge, to create that connection. So in essence, I'm asking, how can we bring in flowers to teams who are struggling with connecting?
What I'm seeing is that the proverbial flower is something that is easy for you to give away.
Oh, I like this. It's an offering.
It's an offering, yes.
Oh, I like this.
So how can organizations create situations where people can bring an offering that is not expensive to them, but means a lot to the person who receives it?
I think this
is what Adam Grant talks about when he's talking about the givers, the takers, and the matchers, which is that the strategic givers are giving 5-second services or 5 minutes services, which is something that I can easily do, but makes a lot of difference to you. In doing that, you get happy. I get happy from helping you, but not only do I get happy from helping you, I strengthen my reputation as a kind person.
So I gain social capital and credibility.
That is right. So what we can do, and that was what Jacob Riis did, he was creating a situation where people could build a social capital and feel that they were involved while doing very small gestures. And by being comfortable with doing a small gesture today, you may be comfortable with doing a little bit bigger gesture tomorrow,
right? Because
it didn't hurt. Plus, you belong to the group of people who did small gestures. So I think we're going back to, says, I belong on the back of your card. That what kind of gestures do we want to belong around?
Ooh. Can you say that again, please? That's a great sentence.
What kind of gestures do we want to belong around? What kind of
How do we want to build our own credibility?
Yeah, not only that, but we have, humans are a social species. So we want to be with other humans doing stuff.
Yes, we do.
And if the stuff can be doing something positive, then we're doing something positive while serving our own social need. Or we could also do something negative. And that still serves our social need.
Right.
But it's not as fruitful for everybody else. And I think that's why I love what you're doing and why I'm sitting here is that that when we can prioritize and organize in a way that we meet people's belonging needs, because they are really, really basic needs. if we don't meet people's belonging needs, somebody else will show up and exploit that they don't belong.
Wow, I want to go in 5 different directions at the same time. You post on LinkedIn all the time. And what I love about your posts, there's consistency about your posts, is what I read today, what I watched today, what I listened to today, and then you include the link and then you talk about what you do. I'm mentioning this because, well, first of all, you amplify people's voices constantly, which I love that you do that. But more importantly, and I was just having this conversation last week with a friend, you're offering a bid for connection. You're offering something that's easy for you to offer that will gift someone else some value, some nugget, something of benefit. This bid for connection in relationality is an oxytocin, a neurochemical movement toward building a bridge, or toward building affection, love, tenderness, empathy, whatever it is, right? You are offering that bid for connection. And what I'm hearing is that everything that you've mentioned thus far is in essence a bid for connection. Giving the flowers is a bid for connection.
Yeah, I think that that's who we are. We are not a cog in the system. We are human beings.
Mm.
And when we are hurting, it's because our bids are not met.
Exactly.
I would say that now we're back to don't take it personally, because
right.
Because if you bid out 100 times, perhaps 5 bids will be met.
Right.
Depending on in which direction you shoot them.
100%. And that's when withholding happens. That's when resentment happens. That's when, grudges happen. That's when stonewalling happens. Bids for connection, and in psychology, it's bids for affection, or bids for appreciation or recognition, but bids for connection build trust.
They do. And the thing is that sometimes people bid, let's go full circle, sometimes people bid in a language, not necessarily a spoken language, but some language that you don't understand because that is not your language.
Beautiful.
So you might not see that
the bid.
That the bid, yes.
Yeah.
And then the other person does not feel seen or heard, and you don't understand why. Because this offering, whatever that offering was, in that culture was a bid for connection. But where you grew up, you don't see that as a bid for connection.
100%. When I worked with 2 different very senior leaders, one from Europe and one from South America, both complained to me that they were continuing to offering bids to their peers and they were not being received.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
What a sweet response.
No, I'm just, the reason that they're talking to you about it is because it's heavy on them.
Yeah, and there's an emotion there for you.
Yeah. I was sitting with the back of my head. Danes make horrible jokes at one another. I mean, they are absolutely rude.
Can we hear one?
I was talking to a colleague in Denmark, and she said that she had been asked, do they really say this? It's like, no wonder you're not married. You're stupid and ugly, right? And it's like, at least I'm not on my 3rd divorce. And,
oh, wow.
And when you have that going on, and, over lunch, then your non-Danish colleagues are like,
totally, yeah.
Why don't they like one another? No, they like one another. They would, this implies that you're neither stupid nor ugly, because if you were, nobody would say so to your face, right?
Right.
So there's a lot of reverse psychology in that kind of joking. Mm-hmm. But if you get offended by somebody joking with you because you don't understand, obviously the sender doesn't understand that you don't understand, so it's on both sides, right? You're not going to have connection. Let's just put it like that.
Well, in that example, and I appreciate that example a lot, that involves the social capital that you have built over time. If you said that to me, even though we're friends, that probably won't land very well for me. I might be offended, to be honest.
Yeah,
right?
But why would, I mean, you're not Danish. Why would I say something
not.
like that
Okay,
to you?
I am not.
I know it won't work.
No, it won't work.
No, but you are touching upon another point that I want to make, and that is, where do you start in this?
Exactly.
In this mutual dance of.
That's exactly right.
Of what do you expect of other people? And I've learned the hard way that you start with absolutely nothing on the bank account. That's not where I come from. Mm-hmm. Where I come from, you have to, Danes are weird. Let's just put it like that. When you do all these silly international social psychology studies, you find that Danes are absolutely the most trusting country in the world.
Yeah, right.
They are the ones that are least afraid of being laughed at, little wonder with that kind of jokes. And I would say one of them that I am proud of is that they have the world record in social mobility.
Mm-hmm. Well, why are they the most trusting? What's the contributing factor to this trust? I mean, you have the global title of this, right?
Yeah, but we also have more or less in the top 3 of the world's happiest people. So there might be something happening in that area. I think that small countries who historically have had fairly homogeneous populations, or when even if they did have immigration, the trickle in was a trickle in, has meant that most people are predictable. Mm-hmm. And predictability does have something to say for it. On one hand, it's boring. On the other hand, it means that I don't get shocked.
Right.
And I don't have to guess. And when I say something, you hear what I say. Mm-hmm. You don't have a filter that's totally different because your frame of reference is totally different. So I think that that's a factor in trust.
Well,
and that's unfortunately because that makes it very difficult to copy.
Before I share what I'm going to say about predictability, what is the foundation? What's behind this predictability? Why are Danes so predictable?
We're all third cousins in one way or another, or sevenths or something.
But why aren't? Where is this predictability coming from? From a cultural perspective, why aren't Germans predictable? Why aren't?
Well, you could say, why aren't Germans predictable to Danes, or why aren't Germans predictable to Germans? And well, there are 60 whatever million Germans, and there are 5.8 million Danes. So just the fact that the country is sort of the size of the back of your hand means that people are very homogeneous.
Right. But where I'm trying to go with this is you had connected the fact that trust was actually coming from predictability. And when we look at the neurochemistry of predictability, it actually secretes benzodiazepine. So when we have the experience of other people being predictable, we feel safe. So that would actually connect directly to the increase of both happiness and trust from a neurochemical perspective. But the curiosity that I have is, what is it about the culture that Danes find predictability of value, and that it's ubiquitous and it's part of the culture? What is driving that tenet or pillar?
Yeah, I'm hearing sort of a chicken and egg question here, because
I see. Okay.
So that makes it a little difficult to answer. And at the same time, I also think that it may be going down. I don't know whether the trust is going down, but the predictability is going down. For the longest time, we had one television channel in Denmark.
Oh, wow.
One. When in my upbringing, there was one television channel. If you were lucky, you could see Swedish TV. If you live somewhere else, you might be able to reach Germany and have 3 channels extra. But if you just have one television channel, then, right?
So where I'm going with this is conformity.
It's very conform, yes.
Right. So that's where the predictability is coming from, is this underlying current of conformity.
Yeah. I mean, it's 2 sides of the same thing, right? I mean, the conformity is when we sort of take ourselves away from it because that becomes too boring.
Right.
And predictability is, but it also has its advantages.
What's the cost of authenticity within conformity?
The cost of authenticity is if you don't behave like everybody else when they expect you to behave like everybody else. Mm-hmm. And when your true you cannot follow the recipe.
So translate that back into what's happening currently in this country.
Well, that was one of the questions we sort of ping-ponged about, is where's the fitting in versus the belonging versus the...
There you go. Exactly.
Versus this whole discussion. And I think that's where I wanted to go when I said that if you don't belong, somebody else will come along and give you the belonging that you're looking for. And they don't necessarily have your best interest at heart. But our need for belonging is so big that we will take on things that are against our values to belong. When I'm thinking about it, sort of a building up the layers in my brain as I grow up, then my belonging is way down here. It's my 2-year-old. It's my holding on to my mother's knee and then running away from her, checking if she's still with me, and healthy attachment theory, right?
Right.
And if you have that, well, then you might belong with yourself enough to be able to discern.
Right. I just want to make a very distinct difference here between belonging and fear of rejection, right? So I think when you say someone else will come and offer you a belonging that might not be even aligned with one's own values or authenticity, one of the things we do on the show is we have everyone express their own sense of belonging, what their own definition of belonging is. And sometimes we choose to not be rejected. Not that that's belonging, but that's actually making sure that we don't find ourselves being excluded.
Yes.
And that's very, very different than belonging.
It absolutely is. And that's why I went back to the 2-year-old, because that's a fear in ourselves. And I don't want to in any way diss or diminish that thing.
Yeah.
It's a very real fear that if, it's your caveman fear. If you're ostracized, I mean, science shows that people who feel lonely and outside of their not belonging have higher levels of antibacterial blood numbers. The whole immune system goes into overdrive towards antibacterial defenses. It also means that their viral defenses are getting worn out, which is why you catch a cold when you're sad.
I just want everyone to hear that. That's why you catch a cold when you're sad.
Yeah, because that's normal viruses.
Exactly.
Normal viruses are running around. And if you're feeling lonely, then you're much more likely to get them because your body is ready to fight the saber-toothed tiger that will come and eat you because you are not part of the tribe.
What's the responsibility of organizations to address loneliness?
I think they should at least not exacerbate it.
Right.
I had a lovely side. He said, my KPI as a CEO should be that fewer of my employees are getting divorced, because it means that they can go home to their families and I'm not wearing them out. And when they go home to their families, they're coming home fulfilled and happy and want to spill over their happiness rather than coming home and want to beat up the family. So that's, the organizations do have a responsibility to send home their workforce fulfilled and happy.
How do you do that? What are some of the steps that organizations can take to work with that, to bring that forward, to make that an actual environment, a cultural experience?
Start to behave like your employees are not machines.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sitting here with so many policies. I want to tell you about the time I worked for Motorola. Motorola in Denmark. So they were, of course, under the same conditions as all other companies in the country. They decided, looking at the numbers, that they actually, for quite a long time, 6 months perhaps, only needed 80% of the workforce. So they called in the representative for the employees, and they called in the representative for the city, and they laid out the problem. And then they said, we can either fire 20% of our workforce, and then they will be on unemployment payment, or we could make everybody go home on Fridays. And then the same employment payment and the pain of being on unemployment payment will be shared by everybody. And then when this intermittent problem that we're trying to solve this way has gone away, then we already have all the workforce could go back to working on Fridays.
Mm-hmm.
And by talking about it like, I would say, normal, pragmatic people, that's what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're on unemployment for 1 day out of the week, it doesn't break your bank.
Right.
And once they needed to gear up again, they had everybody all hands on deck again. Mm-hmm. And meanwhile, for the whole summer, everybody had a day off on Friday.
This is an incredibly innovative way of thinking about how to work with the economic challenges and continue to see the workforce as humans.
There's a tradition, unfortunately, in America for not respecting workers. And I find that incredibly sad, because it's actually most of the voters. I don't understand this way of thinking.
What do you think contributes to this lack of respect towards the workers?
I think that the fact that American has and actually still has slavery is a problem. Do we respect the people who actually do the work? Or do we respect ownership of the field more than the work that's being done in the field? What I see in the individuals that I interact with is beautiful and strong and well-intentioned. It's one of the really difficult issues about both organizations and culture is that when you think about it, we are one person. But so much of this is happening in the interaction of groups. Mm-hmm. And we don't understand groups.
Okay.
Us as individuals don't understand the psychology and the
For sure.
pressure that happens in groups.
For sure.
And we have very little understanding of how growing up in a culture is extremely indoctrinating.
For sure.
So we understand it sort of on an academic level, but not on an emotional level, because at the emotional level, we're just a person. Mm-hmm. So when we move up, it becomes statistics. And numbers and statistics never speaks to our heart.
To our audience who's listening, who are already bought into wanting to start to make changes around becoming more culturally intelligent, what can we share with them?
What I'm looking for when I go out and relate with people is, what do I have that will make me like this person in front of me. And if we always focus on how odd they are, then we're not going to like them, because we're telling ourselves to be fearful. Whereas if we start with notice, that's why I'm really sad that people are keeping their offices so clean. If they had more personal things in their cubicles or offices, then their colleagues could find ways to relate to that they are dog owners too, or they have children at the same age, or they also like baseball, or whatever it is that you kind of read when you see somebody's workplace, or what you could read if you saw somebody's workplace, and it contained personal items. So I think one thing is, be aware. Use your eyes when you're together with somebody. Be curious about the things that you don't understand. We're so afraid of asking questions out of fear of seeming stupid.
That's so true.
Well, it's more stupid to stay stupid. You're not going to learn anything if you don't ask, right?
It's more stupid to stay stupid. I don't even know what to do with that. That's fantastic. I need a bumper sticker. I need a bumper sticker that says it's more stupid to stay stupid, and then just drive around the Bay Area for 13 years. Oh my God. That is hilarious. Wow. So how do we unstupefy people?
We say thank you when they ask us a question. Thank you for the question. Because there's nobody, if people are sincerely asking, why are you whatever, then say thank you for the question.
Yeah.
And then answer the question.
Charlotte, thank you so much for coming to the show and for sharing all of these incredible ideas and thoughts and your wisdom with us.
You're welcome.